Hi everyone, welcome to an intermediate guide to the newly launched Charge Blade weapon. The wait is over. This is going to be an extensive one, so strap in. I have split this guide up into two, so after you're finished with this video, head over to part 2 through the link in my description box. Timestamps are included, but I urge you not to skip through so that you get the full picture. All infographics used in this video is available in the Google Drive link in my description box. In this guide, we will be covering speculative tiering of the charge blades on the weapons tier list, how to charge your Phial Gauge, how to store your Phials, how to discharge your Phials, how to charge your shield, advanced, shield thrust shortcut to amped elemental discharge, AED, or super amped elemental discharge, SAED, intermediate, guard shortcut to AED or SAED, intermediate, guard shortcut to shield charge, additional mechanics to the Phial system, additional mechanics to casting your special, additional mechanics to sword or axe transition, advanced, shield charge shortcut, charge blade gameplay review, general gameplay guidelines and how to pick this weapon up safely, addressing SAED versus AED contention. Is SAED worth the red shield palaver? Raw build suggestions and weapon choices, elemental build suggestions and weapon choices, status weapon choices. So by now, we all know that the Charge Blade is the most technical weapon across all Monster Hunter titles, and its relative complexity is no different here in now. Hence, this very long video. Trust me, I couldn't cut any corners. Its innate difficulty aside, it is an extremely flashy weapon that looks good and sounds good. Pulling off combos are extremely satisfying too. For those of you that have never played the Charge Blade before, don't let its complexity scare you away. And in this video, I hope to leave you with a good understanding of the weapon and enough knowledge to get started. So while we're on our way in, if you like what you see, do remember to leave a like. Without further ado, let's get into it. Charge blades on the weapons tier list. This initial weapons tier list here was derived from Japanese sources and designed accounting for damage potential, and damage potential only. Here's my speculative tiering for the charge blades based on my observations and gathering opinions. Just in front the hammer in A tier. The charge blades can generally dish out a ton of damage and should have no problems in late game 8 stars and up to 9 stars, and should be able to take on some 10 stars at max weapon grade levels. Elemental setups, of course. You will see how it's done in part 2. Since this is my personal rating for charge blades, I will try to keep you guys updated if I obtain a more official tiering from Japanese sources. Now, let's learn the basics. You will start every hunt in sword mode with empty Phials and a white gauge. So let's start with how to charge your Phial Gauge. First, know these basics. Tap to attack, hold to guard. Tap to attack, hold to guard. Charging up your Phial Gauge happens in sword mode, where you can simply tap to attack. Your gauge will transition from white to yellow to red. To get to a red gauge in the quickest way, hold and release to perform a double slash. Hold and release. Hold and release. Do this twice and your gauge will be charged from white to red. But beware, this combo potentially leaves you open to getting hit, so use this discretionarily. On a red gauge, if you continue attacking, you will notice that it will start blinking. This is a warning that you need to store your Phials. In a blinking red gauge, you also deal 30% reduced damage, so avoid over-attacking in sword mode at all costs. Now, for how to store your Phials, 2 methods. Method 1. When your Phial Gauge is at yellow or red, the simple way would be to tap your SB button. Easy. You will also consequently perform an overhead swing and transition to axe mode, where you can then use your stored Phials. Method 2. You can hold and swipe down. You will store your Phials and return to sword mode. Hold and swipe down. But If you continue to tap after this action, you will consequently enter axe mode in a wide slash swing and use up one phial. Method 2 of storing phials by holding and swiping down lets you choose to remain in sword mode or enter axe mode. In a hunt, this can be particularly helpful to avoid committing to the axe swing if and when you're about to get hit. Remaining in sword mode will let you dodge after storing or perform a guard. Otherwise, you'd usually want to get into axe mode. Storing at a white gauge will not grant you any phials. Storing at yellow will grant you 3 phials. Storing at red will grant you the maximum of 5 phials. Now, what do you do with your stored phials? As mentioned earlier, you can use your stored phials in axe mode. It can be used in 2 ways. 1. For discharge attacks. 2. To charge up your shield. We will get into number 2 later. For your discharge attacks, simply tap. Tap once for each swing. As you attack, your phials will be consumed. You can dodge between each round slash swing, but if you continue tapping all the way, you will perform 3 swings one after the other. I will recommend that you tap slowly in case you need to move out the way. Think the greatsword. Commit carefully. If you complete the 3 round slash swings consecutively, continuing to tap will draw your axe back into an amped elemental discharge, AED for short. Paired with the 3 round slash swings earlier, the full combo including AED is an extremely long one, so you usually will not get an opportunity for this full combo unless the monster is KO'd, paralyzed, standing still, or has a part broken. If the monster is not under these conditions, my suggestions would be to tap slowly, dodge whenever you need to, and when you've identified an opening, hold down on your screen to, at a comfortable time, draw your axe back into an amped elemental discharge. Yes, you can hold down in axe mode to do an amped elemental discharge at any point. Hold down to draw your axe back and release. So you do not necessarily need to perform the first few moves to access it. Now take note, after every AED, no matter how you arrived to the move, you will return to sword mode. Now let's return to what I mentioned earlier about the second thing you can do with your phials, and that is to charge your shield, giving you a red shield icon. You'll want to charge your shield into red mainly for the chance of a super elemental amped discharge. That is free, not the one in your special. I will refer to this as the free SAED. It can be likened to the longsword's Spirit Helm Breaker upon performing a counter in red gauge. Okay, now, for how to charge your shield into red, there is only one way, and that is to infuse your phials into them when you're in axe mode. In axe mode, hold and swipe up. Hold and swipe up. You will notice your phials channel into your shield. Your shield icon become red, and you will return to sword mode. The more phials you infuse, the longer your red shield lasts. Additional perks of having a red shield icon is that your guards in sword mode will deal something that looks like KO damage to me on the monster. It's a small number though. Understand this as a considerably small benefit. The main attraction here would be the free SAED. The red shield also apparently gives you damage reduction on your guard. So if you find yourself guarding often, a red shield may help you mitigate a lot of damage. So now that you have a red shield, it's time to get that free SAED. Charge up your gauge to red again, store your phials, and get into axe mode. You can do this by just pressing your yellow button. As you've learned earlier, in axe mode, simply hold and release to perform your free SAED. If you do not have a red shield, you will perform just an AED. Keep that in mind. There are two shortcuts that I'm about to introduce to you that can and should be incorporated even if you do not have a red shield, which means whether or not you're performing the free SAED or just an AED. In both these shortcuts, it involves storing your files. So let's get into it. First shortcut is to use the shield thrust. This allows you to skip the long transition from sword to axe mode if you press your yellow button, or do the hold, swipe down, tap sequence. Once you practice this advanced combo, you should be able to get a hang of it. Watch closely. Hold, swipe down, swipe up, hold, release. Boom. Hold, swipe down to store, swipe up, shield thrust, hold into your stance, release, boom. This is a fast SAED or AED combo from sword mode. You will want to know how to do this or at least have the move in your arsenal, so practice. This is the first advanced combo that you will learn. The other advanced combo that I will introduce later uses the exact same sequence except for the last command. The last command in that one is a swipe up. So practice this one and you should be able to perform the other one. Note that performing this still requires some sort of opening from the monster. So as always, have caution. Now, the alternative shortcut to performing your AED or free SAED is by guarding in sword mode. This one isn't as complex, but can be more risky. On a successful guard in sword mode, whether or not it's a regular guard or perfect guard, simply hold down again to draw your axe back and release to perform an AED or free SAED. This is uncontestedly the fastest way to AED or free SAED, but of course at a risk of taking chip damage or much greater damage if your armor does not have enough defense rating. So guard, take a hit, hold down again, and release. Hold down to guard, take a hit, hold down again, and release. Also, if you get knocked back too far, you cannot perform this move. So it's only most reliable on perfect guards or weak monsters that won't send you flying. Or maybe if you have a red shield. Otherwise, you can avoid guarding attacks. Simply dodge out the way and go for the shield thrust combo, or the basic pressing your yellow button. Now, the guard shortcut also lets you charge your shield if you have files stored. Simply switch up the last command of the sequence. So for a shield charge, you will guard, hold, and swipe up. Boom, shield charge. Alright guys, you have learned ways to charge your gauge, store files, get into axe mode, charge your shield, and the various shortcuts to discharge your AED or free SAED on red shield. I hope this is not getting too difficult to absorb, so here's an infographic of all the touchscreen commands we have learned. I hope it comes in handy. Take a screenshot. I will be going through one more sequence, which will be the fast shield charge later. But first, here's some additional mechanics to take note for the file system. Perfect evades grant you one file in both modes. In sword mode, perfect guards also grant you one file. The free SAED consumes all your files. AED only consumes one file. Your special SAED does not consume any files. Since your special can only be casted in axe mode, from sword mode, if you double tap the yellow button, you can transition into your special, just like the dual blades. But beware of long animation with this. So if you're in sword mode but need to gain the invulnerability your special provides, you need a plan B. Your safest bet would be to hold down for a guard. Otherwise, try to evade away. Lastly, there is one more way to get into X mode that I wasn't able to show you earlier. You can also enter X mode by holding and swiping up. But note, this does not store your files. You will still have empty files using this move. So for storing files, only the hold, swipe down and tap, or pressing the yellow button. Holding and swiping up is only for immediate discharging if you already have files stored. Lastly, I'd like to introduce to you the fastest way to obtain the red shield icon. On a red or yellow gauge, hold, swipe down, swipe up, hold, swipe up. This is the exact same sequence as the shield thrust combo you learned earlier, except for the last command. Instead of releasing your finger from the screen to discharge your files, you swipe up instead to infuse your files into your shield. Hold, swipe down, swipe up, hold, swipe up. Maybe if you say this enough times, you'll remember it as a mantra. Alright guys, please head into part 2 of this guide for Charge Blade gameplay review and analysis if SAED is worth it, how to approach learning the Charge Blade, and all raw plus elemental build suggestions and weapon choices. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you in part 2.